Hello and welcome to Get Involved Referee with Steve Conroy, Des Roach and myself, Lindsay Heron. Coming up on the show, we'll look back at the performances of our referees so far this season. And they've got a hectic schedule of games coming up too, with about 9 league matches to squeeze in between now and the World Cup. We'll also discuss professional fouls, as we call them, or cynical challenges. And we'll take a look back at the infamous referee strike back in 2010, which, Steve, I know you were heavily involved in. But let's kick off then, if you don't mind, on the cynical challenge, taking the man out, taking one for the team. The reason, again, I bring it up is it happened again for Scotland on last Wednesday night in the Ukraine game. Shea Adams just brutally taken out of the play and the man who conducted the foul, or the tackle, if you want to call it that, only got a yellow card.
Yep. Then there's been a few, certainly in the past few weeks, that we've discussed here, and the one on Wednesday, and the outcomes of some of them, we've sent them off, we've booked them, things have been overturned and changed, so we don't know exactly where we are. The one on Wednesday last week, I was happy with a yellow card for the foul, but perfectly happy to accept that other people think it was a red instead, for denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. I didn't think so, but yeah, we're having discussions. Is it maybe something that you have an individual or a separate sanction for? Because that one, the Goldson one on Maeda, the Lundstrom one, even though that was overturned, these tackles are made with absolutely, again, tackles, as you said, these challenges are made with absolutely no intention of playing the ball. The sole intention is to bring down the man. And I can't remember how the managers say it, if it's breaking up a transition phase, blah blah. The sole intention of that is to prevent a goal scoring opportunity, whether it's clear at that point. The sole intention is to make sure that the attacking team doesn't get a chance to score a goal. Did we come up with a separate sanction? That's certainly worth talking about, and if we did, then all the ones we've discussed in the past few weeks would be red cards.
Yep. Des?
I agree entirely. We spoke privately there. There is no intention to play the ball. There is no intention to win the ball and play for your own team. The only intention is you're not going to go any further. So it's that one between the yellow and the red and orange card. I don't like it. I know exactly what the defender's done. He's played within the laws of the game, and he is that word, taking one for the team, professional foul, however you want to call it. For me, I think there could be and should be a separate sanction for that. You are not allowing that person to go any further, and you're deliberately taking him out of play. So for me, it's a yellow card, but for me, I think there could be a bracket, and go, well, what's your opportunity to play the ball? What's your intention to play the ball? Your intention is you're not going to go any further. Stop. So I think you could have a separate sanction, and for me, it's cynical.
It really is, and it doesn't matter if you're pulling a jersey or whether you're kicking them in the ankles or tripping them up. It's the same offence, isn't it? Really. Yeah,
and as we've said, it's the sole intention is to prevent a goal scoring opportunity. At the particular moment in time where the challenge happens, and the ones we've discussed, they've not been clear and obvious goal scoring opportunities, but that's because they've done it before it becomes a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. So yeah, these guys, FIFA, IFAB, they're the ones that make the rules. It's their ball, so they can do what they want. So if they want to create a separate offence that becomes a red card, it's in their gift to do it, and it would make sense.
Would you not take out the word obvious? You've denied a goal scoring opportunity. Now, an obvious opportunity is like a player against a goalkeeper or a 1v1 situation. So take out the word obvious. You've denied a clear goal scoring opportunity. Would that be?
Again, thinking back in some of the challenges, at the points where they've been made, it's not been a clear. At that point, it's not been a clear opportunity. But that's because they've intervened before the players have had a chance to make it a clear.
Yeah, to take that away.
So their wording, and my God, they make a career out of debating 1 and 2 words in the whole book.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine you having to read through an app and working out clear and obvious opportunity?
My God, I'd be through a window. But yeah, it's not beyond their capability to come up with a choice of words that says if you make a challenge with the sole intention of stopping the opposing team getting away and scoring, then
I'd be
that's
happy
a
with
red
that.
card. Yeah.
It seems to me it's the only thing left in the game that isn't punishable equitably, if you know what I mean. You know, a player's allowed to just basically take someone else out, have no attempt to play the ball, and yet they get away with a yellow. It just seems an archaic rule to me.
Yep, I agree completely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, me too. I think it's baffling. Just go and take somebody out the halfway line, but if you're 30 yards further up the field of play, you're sent off.
Even in the Scotland-Ireland game as well, there was an incident where Ireland are on the counter-attack following a Scotland attack. It's 2 against 1, and I think it was either Ryan Christie or Callum McGregor, I'm not quite sure, was trying to take out Obafemi, who was running through, but missed him. And then it was a 2v1. So if he caught him there, it was a similar one, isn't it?
No, that's Scotland. No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
All these rules depend on what way you're shooting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. It's not just happening to other people, it happens to us as well. But then the rule is if you, or you're cautioned or whatever, if you kick or attempt to kick, punch or attempt to punch. So if you hack or attempt to hack, then it's the same bag. So
well, that's it. I mean, getting hung for a hen or hung for a goose. Yeah, if you're going to do it, just do it right. But no, we didn't get away with it last night. No, we were fine.
Well, we'll send this podcast to FIFA and get them to sort it out, lads.
Sorry, Hugh, will be dealing with that one.
So, like we say, that it's been quite prevalent, this type of offence in the first sort of 7 weeks of the season. So the refs have, got to try and manage that situation, which hasn't been easy. How would you say the guys have been performing so far, and who would you say have been the best performers?
Outstanding so far has been Nick Walsh by a country mile. Very impressed with some of the young bucks that are coming through. We've been at variance a couple of times with David Dickinson, but he is certainly showing that he is capable. He's one for the future. And even young Matthew that we've been talking about in the past couple of weeks, showing, I think, and fair play to the SFA, they're widening the pool. There's a phrase you don't hear from me very often, fair play to them. They are widening the pool, and it's up to these young guys, if they're given the chance, then they have to grasp it. So I think overall, I think things have been fine. We've had a couple of discussions about maybe not particularly great games, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we've been doing all right.
The one ref that hasn't had a game yet, though, out of all the sort of top group ones, is Andrew Dallas. I haven't seen him yet. Just wonder why that was.
Nope, we haven't seen him. And some of the I can't remember the official name for the group. The group of the up and comers have started getting games ahead of Andrew. Presumably, if he's on the list, then he's passed all the fitness requirements leading up to the season. But I certainly haven't heard anything, so speaking out of ignorance, but the only assumption would be that he's got an injury. Can't think of anything else.
Yeah, no. To go back to the previous question regarding the young guys coming through, I think it's absolutely refreshing to see different names on different games weekly. Now, I'll go back to Steve's days. There was you could always expect Conroy, Dallas, Clark, Murray, Thompson, Dougal. You could expect these guys on the top games all the time.
Yep.
But how do you refresh that? So at this moment in time, from looking at it, it is being refreshed, and it's great. Young Matthew McDermott is doing absolutely fantastic. Nick and Kevin and Don are almost they're your staple. But you've got David Dickinson coming through, you've got Craig Napier coming through, you've got these younger names coming through, which has to happen. It's like a football team.
Yeah.
You can't play with 36, 37-year-olds all the time. You've got to bring through the youth product. So that's great. I think David Dickinson, I know we spoke last week regarding the Hibernian incident. I don't hold him culpable for that at all.
No.
Absolutely not. And I think he will go on. I think Matthew will go on. And we're just looking for the next surge coming through, which is great. Regarding Andrew Dallas, again, with Stephen, I don't know anything personally. I got on with Andrew when we worked together. I can only assume there's an injury or something there, but why would you not have an ex-FIFA referee who's part of the top group? Why would you not have an officiating? So there must be something there that we don't know about, and I hope everything's okay.
No, for sure. And I can't let go of David Dickinson. I mean, you guys last week quite vociferously saying that Jim Goodwin is not the man who should be in trouble over the post-match comments regarding that Hibs Aberdeen situation. In fact, it should have been Lee Johnson, but now, lo and behold, the Aberdeen manager's been hauled up on 2 charges, Steve.
Well, that's what we said last week. That he came out and was factually correct in saying that the referee was conned. I don't think that you can say anything otherwise. And I know we were getting lambasted from certain quarters, but in my opinion, clearly the Hibs player cheated, and his manager condoned it, and we don't hear a word. It's madness.
Well, I agree entirely. I don't think we'll be invited for a pint down the Leith at any point, but I just don't understand. Okay, they're bringing Jim Goodwin in, and they're going to obviously speak to him, and he'll get a ban. But that clip that we shared amongst ourselves, the Hibernian manager said our good play got a player sent off.
Yeah.
To me, am I wrong? Am I 3,000 miles away? I just think that's preposterous.
It'll be interesting to see what the SFA say when Jim goes down for his trial in front of them. I mean, will they show the incident, and will Jim say, well, look, there it is there?
If they do that, then they're on very, very shaky ground, because I don't think...
If Jim wants, I'll send him the clip.
He might have access to it.
I'm fairly sure he's got a copy.
They'll be on very, very shaky territory, because what did he do wrong?
Yeah.
He called the incident right, and
Veritas.
quite rightly said the referee was conned.
Yeah, well, it's October the 6th. He's up in front of them, so we'll see what happens there for Jim. But yeah, no doubt they'll smack his wrist and ban him from the touchline for a couple of games.
And Lee Johnson just carries on.
He just walks on scot-free. Yeah, interesting. Just talking about the refs again. Yeah, obviously hectic schedule coming up. The Premiership back at the weekend, of course. And well, you've got to squeeze in all these matches between now and the 12th of November when it all shuts down for the World Cup that we're not going to.
Oh yeah, another one.
The refs, I mean, will that make it more difficult? Will they have to sort of, decide who gets what game, or will they, rest a couple of refs? Like the players are going to have to be arrested, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll have to get through all this. You can't, and again, thank God they've extended the pool. You couldn't do all these games and have the same 4, 5, 6 people doing all the top, in inverted commas, games. It just isn't practical.
Yeah.
So exactly as you said, it needs to be a rotation. Everybody needs to be involved in it, because there's no way around it. If you give the same as players, if you give all the big games to all the same people, somebody's going to get hurt. So it doesn't make any sense. So they need to use as many people as they possibly can to get through this spell.
Absolutely. Okay, then let's go back in time. Let's take you back to 2010 and one of the, well, sort of most explosive moments in refereeing history in Scottish football, when, Steve, you and your colleagues decided enough was enough, and you're going to go on strike. You're going to remove your labour. The ultimate sort of sanction, if you like. I mean, quite remarkable times. It was... Can you paint the picture, though, for people who weren't really around at that time, what the real grievances were?
It's maybe hard from this distance to get across quite what was happening back then. It was nuts. But we were genuinely scared for our personal safety back then. We were convinced that somebody was going to get hurt at a game, at their work, or at home, because it was constant criticism. And it wasn't just criticism. Conroy got it wrong again. It was personal personal insults. It was personal threats a lot of the time, and it was totally, in my opinion, you'll never persuade me otherwise, totally orchestrated from others to deflect from adverse events that were going on elsewhere, to getting to the extent where people were worried about going to games, and it was a tough time. It was horrible, and it was mainly, it wasn't solely, but it was mainly a couple of teams and individuals and teams that were involved, and it made it very, very difficult, very unpleasant to do your work at that time.
I think take away the refereeing side of it. Right? Steve and I are big enough and ugly enough, and I was only fresh into the pool at that time. The referees can take that, right? Listen, you're getting shouted at by 100 folk, 20 folk, 3,000, 60,000. You can take that. That's the environment that you're brought up in. That's the environment that you work in. But it's when you take it away from football, your wife, your children, your family, your grandmother, they're getting casticized because their relation to you. That's the wider growth. It's not me. It's not Steve. If we make a bad decision, blimmin' hell, you just get on with it.
Get on with it, yeah.
But it's the wider people that it affects. And as I say, I was only new into it at that time, but Steve was involved very heavily. You were secretary at that moment in time for the Referees Association that we had. But I could see how it could affect other people. It doesn't affect me. Does it affect my wife? Does it affect my children? Does it affect Steve's wife, his children? That's the people that had to be defended, not particularly just us.
No. And there was genuine, heartfelt fear that something was going to happen either to us or the family. And it wasn't helped with the behaviour of certain officials from certain teams, and certain teams certainly didn't help. They were condoning it and they were encouraging it, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
You wouldn't care to share who these certain individuals and teams were?
Well, there was a lot back then. Neil Lennon certainly wasn't a friend of referees back then, and I know we upset Hibs last week, so we'll upset Hearts this week. And Mad Vlad certainly wasn't helping things. And at all costs and at all turns, everything that maybe they did wrong was blamed personally and individually on us, and we were deliberately targeted at that time.
I think that the sort of straw that broke the camel's back was the whole Dougie MacDonald incident up at Tannadice, the Dundee United Celtic match, which turned into an absolute fiasco for him personally. Just to recap that for our listeners, obviously there was a penalty awarded in the game, and then Dougie MacDonald changed his mind and decided not to award the penalty, but he kidded on, or he alluded to the fact he was consulting with his assistant, and when questioned about it by Neil Lennon after the game, he said it was the assistant who overruled him and asked the assistant to toe the party line, and made up this story of Dougie, it's not a penalty, and all that kind of thing. Anyway, long story short, he was proven to be a liar, and Celtic chased him relentlessly to the extent he eventually quit the game. So it was quite an explosive time at that time, Steve.
Well, it was horrible, and unfortunately Dougie didn't help. And he played into the hands of Mr. Lennon, because we just proved that we have got a vendetta against Celtic, and everything that they were saying about us was correct. I know for a fact he regrets, and some of the conversations and the interviews that he had afterwards just put fuel to the fire. But I know for a fact he bitterly regrets it. But so does the assistant who was involved in getting embroiled into it through no fault of his own. So it didn't help. I don't think that was that wasn't the ultimate cause for withdrawing our availability, but it didn't help, and it was a spectacularly stupid decision on Dougie's part.
Just talking about I think you guys had a meeting to discuss what you were going to do, because you got to the point, breaking point, effectively. But I don't think you were anticipating the unanimity to actually withdraw your labour, were you?
It wasn't unanimous, but certainly I, and as Des said, I was the secretary at that point of the SSFRA. Now we knew, and it got to the stage where we couldn't go on. We couldn't keep doing what we were doing. We were not willing to put up with what we were putting up with at that point. So, and I can't remember where we were. It was one of the regular monthly or
I think we were at
quarterly meetings.
We were at Stirling University, I think.
Can't remember. But we had our meeting at the end of that meeting, and being part of the committee, we had discussions on what we do and the steps that we take if things didn't improve. Not a one of us on the committee was anticipating a vote on that Sunday to withdraw Labour. Not one of us. Took us all by surprise, and that meeting went on for another couple of hours afterwards because we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was it Anthony Law, who's long since chucked it. He was one of the voices in the meeting.
Yeah.
After we had voted, it was a majority. It certainly wasn't unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Anthony that said, right, we've decided this, so what does success look like?
There is no success.
We didn't know.
No.
There is no success. I remember, as I said, I'd done the Junior Cup final in the June. This is November, so it was only a couple of months in, and I remember receiving a phone call on the Sunday night, and there was a script read to me saying, "Do you agree with this?" Now, I don't want to be wanting about Sainsbury's on a Saturday afternoon, not just when I'm being promoted to category 1 doing games, but am I going to go against my colleagues and my friends? Absolutely not. But I think it was an absolute watershed moment in football that referees have united and went, we're not having it. We're not doing it. And looking back, am I proud of it? I'm proud that they stuck up for themselves, but I'm not proud that we had to have foreign referees come into our country and referee our games. And Steve and I had spoken earlier. There was it Portuguese? I think Portuguese, Spanish, but one refereeing team came in, and they didn't know the pretenses that they were coming in for. And as soon as they knew the reason that they were coming into this country, they just turned around and went, "No, we're not doing it."
I went back again.
Put us back, and you could guarantee to 1,000,000% that the referees who'd done the games would never be criticised for that day. They were the best referees in the world. Listen, they could have missed 100 penalty kicks and red cards. They were never going to be criticised because they were seen to be the ones that were coming to fill our void, etc. But no, I think it was a very powerful moment for Scottish refereeing. And it was sad to get there because certain individuals in certain clubs and certain positions within the Scottish FA didn't back their referees.
It was certainly a momentous time, but I think we could and should have done it in a much more controlled fashion.
I agree.
The chat leading up to it was talking about, in the current climate, you shouldn't say it, but the phrase we used was the nuclear option.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything leading up to that point, and the first thing that we did was to press the button.
Yeah.
It might have come to that eventually anyway, but I don't think that we should have jumped straight into to the ultimate. All right, it kind of died away after a couple of weeks, and touch wood, it's never got back to that stage since. So maybe it had the desired effect. But I just wish it had been done in a much more controlled and expected fashion.
Like you say, it was a bizarre situation with foreign referees being flown in from all airts and parts, as they say. But like the main countries, the referees, like you say, decided not to do it. They were showing solidarity with their Scottish colleagues. And I think it was some chaps from Israel and Luxembourg come in, and they were wanting referees to do 2 games over a weekend and trying to squeeze them in, and they were doing anything, the SFA, just to try and make sure the games were on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if memory serves, I can't remember his name, was it Mr. Hamer?
Yep.
Had an absolute howler, unspeakably bad. And personally, I had a wee smirk at that one.
It was just bizarre, and you can't imagine, you sincerely can't hope that would happen again. You wonder, It just seems strange, doesn't it, that the referees would go on strike? But thankfully, the ramifications were that the sort of threats died down a bit, Steve.
Yeah, I certainly haven't been, and everybody's seen videos of people being threatened and assaulted. We've all seen videos like that, but it certainly, again, touchwood, hasn't been anywhere near as widespread, universal as it was back then. So maybe just that couple of weeks was enough for people to pause and take stock of what was happening, and maybe the main instigators of it, it pulled them up short, and they realised what they'd been doing as well.
Quite remarkable. Could you imagine anything like that happening again?
No. One word.
Definitely not.
No.
And do you think the landscape is better now for referees now? It's not quite as toxic as it was back then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not been as widespread as it was back then. We're talking about personal threats and all the rest of it now. And again, we'll hark back to Mr. Goodwin, who had great cause to come out and criticise. All he said was that the referee had been conned. That isn't the slant that would have been taken 10 years ago. Not a chance.
I think it's actually quite harsh on Jim Goodwin, the way he's been brought up. I know you have to be, I don't know, you have to be thoughtful in what you say, and certainly the position that he carries. But he didn't say anything wrong.
No, that's the whole point. But 10 years ago,
10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. I actually think there were some on-field problems as well, Steve, at that time. I think I remember Majid Bugera grabbing Callum Murray in a Scottish Cup match at Celtic Park, and Nadir Chifchi, I think, grabbed one ref by the throat. Actually, it was very strange, and was sent off at that time. So there was a bit of that creeping in as well.
Absolutely, because if your managers and your bosses are encouraging punters to be thinking and doing these kind of things, then it's obvious that the employees are going to think, well, if he says that this guy's crap, then I'm going to have a go. No, it was a very, very unpleasant atmosphere to be working in, and thank God that's gone. And I hope to hell it never returns, put it that way.
Oh, indeed. And presumably the introduction of VAR, when it finally comes into our game, we're anticipating it in January after the World Cup. But who knows if it's going to be ready or not? We're still waiting to hear.
I think it is going to cause merry hell. I really do. I think it's going to cause merry hell. People will be looking at decisions, dissecting it, getting it right, getting it wrong. It is just going to be an explosion. And we've seen how volatile it can be down in England. Honestly, you guys in the print media, you in the digital media and Twitter, it is going to explode as soon as VAR comes into Scottish football.
It's going to be nuts. And we've seen what's happened in various places, certainly down in England the past few weeks. And I'm going to come out straight away, certainly the ones in England that we discussed. The technology worked perfectly. It showed absolutely how incidents had occurred. And I have not one inkling in some of the decisions that were made following review of VAR. We will make mistakes up here. We'll make the same mistakes as are made everywhere else. I hope, and it's hope against hope, that we're allowed to bed into it and allowed to make the same mistakes as people made 3 years ago, and it's beginning to be ironed out. We're only just coming into it, and again, I've said it before. They've made us look like country bumpkins again. We're going to be. We're going to be havering and digging about in the dark when it's been done years ago in other places, and it's just going to make us look stupid.
Should they not try? I mean, also we've spoken about it, and the interpretation of the laws and the application of the laws are going to be entirely different. Should it not be that they take those 6 months and run it behind the scenes and coach and educate and get the referees online with it and how they're going to use it, and then start it again? Now, I've said it.
That's far too sensible, Des.
I know. Not many folks say that about me. But run it behind the scenes, have dry runs, and bring it in August. Because, as we've said long and weary, if you bring it in January the 1st or whatever day they say. It's not the same season. It's not the same game. So do you know what? Run it. Don't publicise it. Give the referees their marks. Give them their qualifications, etc. And just go with it. And then next season, you're ready to run. Now, you can do it under 15, under 16, under 14, whatever games have been trialling. Sorry. That's not Celtic and Rangers. No. That's not Hearts and Hibs.
Sure.
That's not Premier League where points are worth money, jobs are in the line, careers in the line. Go and do it for real. So do it for real behind the curtains for 6 months. Don't go and do it with, I don't know, Bridgeway Boys Club versus Motherwell Boys Club at under 14s. It's not the same effect.
Agreed.
So go and do it. Go and do a dry run and get it right.
They're not going to do that though, are they? So
no.
But why do they not come out, Steve, and say, right, December the 17th, we're live? Why are they delaying it? What's the I don't understand.
No, but they've not covered themselves in glory about anything to do with it. They've dithered and delayed at all points. I don't know if they've finally agreed finance. I don't know if they've finally agreed the technology. I don't know if they've got people in who are going to be interpreting the technology, the decisions. Don't know. But as always, the way they work it is just to shut up, keep everybody in the dark.
Yeah.
It's still, again, we've said it hundreds of times, it makes absolutely no sense to bring this in active halfway through a season.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
You just, like we said before, you just know there's going to be a massive, massive call.
Absolutely.
The next derby in Glasgow, don't you? That had it happened before, VAR wouldn't have been spotted or something like that.
No, absolutely. It's going to make a difference between somebody opening up a 6-point lead and somebody getting the game back, the league back to level pegging. It's going to be something huge, and it's going to be, to use your phrase, Des, it's going to be merry hell.
Exactly. The one thing, though, I suppose it would do is protect the referees a bit more in the sense that they're either vindicated or the VAR will help them come to a decision. So perhaps, like we talked earlier about the personal attacks and what have you, which are not as prevalent as they were before, but that would sort of desist a little bit as well.
Maybe not straight away because we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So will it make it look even worse that we've had VAR and we still can't get it right? These guys are just bloody idiots. They don't know what they're doing. And if you look at and we know it's going to happen. The Celtic Rangers incident that's going to happen, and we look at VAR and we get it wrong.
I think the biggest one
the poor guy that does that is going to be hellish.
Could you imagine VAR was involved when the Kirk Broadfoot incident with Willie, and it was behind his back and he gave a decision? Could you imagine the newspapers and the reaction the next day? I went, that's entirely wrong.
Oh, this was the penalty, alleged penalty at Celtic Park.
Yeah,
back in the day.
But referees will make mistakes.
Of course,
will make mistakes, and it's the footballers make mistakes. Of course they do. The referees make mistakes. Of course they do. I've always said it. The best referees, the best footballers are the ones that make the least mistakes. Games are won by skill from an attacker and by a mistake by a defender. Referees are exactly the same. They will make a good call, they'll make a bad call. Nobody goes out deliberately to have a bad game or to give an opinion on team A or team B. It just happens. So let's see how this goes.
Exactly. Well, one thing's for sure, we don't make any mistakes on this show, and we'll be here. We'll be here to keep you fully informed in the next edition of Get Involved Referee. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.